get ready for Benjamin Knight Fuchs live on a Tuesday. No, what are we? Sunday. I'm sorry. What am I thinking? We are on a Sunday. Early evening, late afternoon, Ben.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
How you doing, Liam?
I'm doing great. It was a busy day for me today. Busy day, lots of one of those one thing after another day. Sundays are supposed to be a day of rest, but it was chock full for me. How about you? How was your Sunday?
Restful. Went to the gym, did a little research, got ready for our podcast. I guess this is a podcast.
I would say this is a podcast. Yes, indeed. And so just for the audience, we are podcasting on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And leave your questions and comments. We really enjoy talking to our audience and getting feedback on what's going on. All right, Ben, what do you have for us today?
Well, I read an interesting article on an anti-malaria drug, which is a derivative of the herb wormwood. This derivative is called artemisinin. It's hard to say. I'm not sure how you say it here. Artemisinin. It's a derivative of artemisia. It's a artemisinin, I think you say it. It's a derivative of artemisia, which is a really, really nasty herb that's used to treat parasitic infections as well as cancer and malaria. You could put that first article up, Liam. This is the article I got from Science Daily. This is about using this artemisinin, artemisia extract, wormwood extract, for treating PCOS. PCOS is an acronym that stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And in the name polycystic ovarian syndrome, in the term or the diagnosis PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, you really have everything you need to know to treat the condition, and you don't need to be taking a toxic anti-malaria drug to deal with it. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a hormonal condition that involves, number one, the hormone insulin, most importantly, and then along with the hormone insulin, the hormones estrogen and androgens or testosterone. Artemisinin, the derivative of artemisia that's used to treat, or that they're proposing to use to treat PCOS, the anti-malaria, anti-cancer drug, actually is an anti-androgen substance. It lowers male hormones. And as we'll talk about here in a second, male hormones play a role in the unpleasant effects of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. You can put the next slide up. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a condition where you have, as the name implies, polycysts, many cysts on the ovaries. It's obviously a condition that affects women. Only women have ovaries. And whenever you have growths, whether those growths are cysts or nodules or fibroids or tumors, cysts are sort of similar to tumors, these growths always involve the hormone insulin, which is a growth hormone, and estrogen, which is also a growth hormone. Now, most people would recognize estrogen as a growth hormone because estrogen is involved in growing a baby. When women are pregnant, their estrogen levels go up so they can build a baby. Estrogen is a baby-building hormone. But a lot of folks don't realize that insulin is also a growth hormone. In fact, it may be the most important growth hormone in the body. It makes things grow. So polycysts, many cysts on the ovaries, should be regarded as, number one, a problem with blood sugar and insulin. And number two, problems with estrogen. And then ultimately problems with androgens. That's because the cysts that are on the ovaries stimulate the production of both estrogen and androgens. Cysts on the ovary or ovarian tissue, and ovarian tissue makes both male and female hormones. So you got when the PCOS patient is dealing with symptoms of PCOS, and there's some really horrible symptoms, mostly cosmetic, but there's also internal metabolic symptoms. I've been dealing with PCOS as a skincare issue because PCOS patients typically have acne and very oily skin, but PCOS patients also will have problems with the hair loss, dandruff. In terms of their overall metabolism, the PCOS patient will be overweight or even obese. The PCOS patient will have acne on the back. PCOS will affect the reproductive system. It will affect the menstrual cycle. It will affect fertility. It will affect the cardiovascular system ultimately. PCOS is a nightmare condition. And if you don't deal with it at the causal level, it's very difficult to treat. Now, if you go to a doctor these days, they'll probably give you an anti-diabetes drug. Or now, based on this article, they might give you some wormwood or some artemisia extract or artemisinin. But you don't need to go there. First and foremost, you want to treat polycystic ovarian syndrome as a prediabetes or diabetes issue. That means blood sugar control. That means, number one, reducing your intake of calories that come from carbohydrates. Obviously, if you're dealing with diabetes or prediabetes or hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the blood, or insulin resistance, which is type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance syndrome, metabolic syndrome, which is also associated with problems with insulin and blood sugar. And metabolic syndrome is a real mess, as we talked about last week. Almost every single chronic health challenge you can name is linked to metabolic syndrome. So if you're dealing with PCOS and you treat it appropriately, you're going to be reducing your risks for liver problems, for heart disease, for cancer, God forbid, autoimmunity, dementias, and all these other health challenges that are associated with blood sugar problems. So most importantly, the PCOS patient has to treat themselves like a diabetic. That means restricting your intake of fast-burning carbohydrates, going ketogenic or perhaps paleo. Ketogenic diet is a low-calorie diet where most of your calories come from fat and a very small amount of calories come from carbohydrates. A little bit more come from protein. Roughly about a maybe 75, 15, 10 kind of ratio, somewhere in those in that vicinity. 75% of your calories, 75 to 80 coming from fats, around 10 to 15 coming from protein, and the remainder coming from carbohydrates. The ketogenic diet is a low-calorie diet. It should be about 1,000 to 1,200 calories when it's done correctly. That's a big mistake people make when they employ the ketogenic diet, is they ingest too many calories. Most people know about the high percentage of calories coming from fat, but people don't always recognize that the ketogenic diet is a low-calorie diet. So ketogenic, paleo, low-calorie, making sure you're using nutrients that help the body process sugar is a must for the PCOS patient. So there's lots of nutrients that will do this. The B complex is very important for helping the body process sugar, particularly thiamine, vitamin B1, niacin, vitamin B3, and then pantothenic acid isn't so important for blood sugar control, but it's important for energy metabolism, and it facilitates the burning of fat for energy, which can have a positive impact on diabetics or people who are dealing with blood sugar problems. So the B complex in general, but especially vitamins B1, B3, also B5 and B12, but just all the B complex is very important. Magnesium and zinc are two very important minerals for helping the body process sugar, as are the minerals chromium and vanadium. Vitamin A can help. There's a wonderful non-essential nutrient called alpha lipoic acid that can be helpful for helping the body, for helping folks who are dealing with blood sugar problems. So approaching your PCOS patient or treating your PCOS patient, or if it's you, treating your PCOS with blood sugar strategies as if you were a diabetic is really important. Drinking more water can help dilute the blood, particularly first thing in the morning, can help dilute blood sugar, lowering blood sugar concentration, that is. And then exercise, or even just moving your body, particularly after you eat a sugary meal, can help shunt sugar from the bloodstream into the muscle, thereby lowering blood sugar. Then there's another really interesting connection that I found between PCOS and a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin has a reputation for being the love hormone. Oxytocin levels go up when you are in a relationship, in a love relationship. You can put that next slide up, Liam. Oxytocin levels go up when you're what is that? I'm not sure what that is. Oxytocin levels go up when you're in a positive relationship, a love relationship, social relationships. When you're volunteering, oxytocin levels go up. When we're touched, massage, or even just being touched by a friend or a lover, that can have a positive effect on oxytocin. And then there's great nutrients that can help raise oxytocin levels, particularly magnesium. Put that magnesium slide up. The impact of magnesium on oxytocin receptor function. This is an article that I found from Stanford University Press. Magnesium actually sensitizes the oxytocin receptors, thereby improving oxytocin effects. And then there is our favorite nutrient, our favorite essential nutrient, which is vitamin C. I absolutely love this stuff, and I've been using vitamin C in my skincare formulations for decades. Vitamin C is really important when you apply it topically for helping lighten the skin, helping improve healing of the skin for wounded skin. You can put that last slide up, Liam. Vitamin C is also important for the cardiovascular system. Vitamin C also plays a very important role and an underappreciated role on blood glucose levels. Found this article that talks about super high levels of ascorbic acid, vitamin C, bumping up oxytocin levels pretty significantly. Just another wonderful benefit for this really important, powerful, and non-toxic and benign essential nutrient, and cheap essential nutrient. It's tragic when people suffer from symptoms of vitamin C deficiency, particularly accelerated aging and wrinkles and osteoporosis and poor immune functioning, poor cardiovascular health. All of these are tied into deficiencies of vitamin C. And now, as it turns out, vitamin C deficiencies are associated with low levels of oxytocin. Oxytocin levels are associated themselves with better blood sugar control for folks who are dealing with PCOS. So making sure that you're taking a good amount of vitamin C, and by good amount, I'm talking about 1 to 5, even up to 10 grams of vitamin C a day. Ascorbic acid is water-soluble vitamin C, and while topically you want fat-soluble vitamin C, water-soluble vitamin C is very unstable, so you got to use it real fast. In a cosmetic or skincare product, you're obviously not going to be able to use the whole product right away, so using water-soluble vitamin C is not the best way to get your topical vitamin C, get your vitamin C on your skin. But drinking or taking vitamin C orally you can use ascorbic acid very effectively. That's the water-soluble form. And I recommend anywhere from 1 to 10 grams a day. Here's the thing about vitamin C. If you try to take too much all at once, first of all, your body won't be able to absorb all of it, so you'll urinate a bunch of it, and you're not going to get the maximum benefit from your ascorbic acid. But also, because vitamin C is very hygroscopic, that means it absorbs water. When you take your vitamin C, if you take too much, it'll pull water into your intestines, and you'll end up with cramping or bloating or loose stools or even diarrhea or even explosive diarrhea from taking too much vitamin C all at once. So for those reasons, it's best to take your vitamin C, ascorbic acid, in divided doses throughout the day. You can maybe take a teaspoon of ascorbic acid powder, put in water, and sip on it for the next hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then do it a second time if you want to use those high doses. There's really zero toxicity to vitamin C, and 10 grams is not going to hurt anybody. In fact, I've heard of people injecting 50 grams of vitamin C right into their bloodstream with no toxicity. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody inject vitamin C, although it is done. But you can get wonderful vitamin C benefits for oxytocin, as well as for the immune system and for the skin and for the heart and for the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are very dependent on vitamin C, the thyroid. By just sipping on vitamin C water, if you want to take a capsule or a tablet, 1,000 milligrams 3 or 4 times a day, or 2,000 milligrams even 3 or 4 times a day with water. Always drink water with your vitamin C. If you want to raise your oxytocin levels with kind of non-nutritionally, warm water can do it. Warm baths can do it. Relaxing can do it. Massage can do it. As I said earlier, being touched can do it. Volunteering can do it. Charity work can raise oxytocin levels. Bonding with a pet can do it. Or even just petting your dog or your cat can help raise oxytocin levels. Yoga has a oxytocin boosting effect. Acupuncture can help boost oxytocin levels. And then, of course, there's the supplements that you take: magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin D, melatonin can help raise oxytocin. There's even some literature that talks about caffeine raising oxytocin levels. So there's lots of wonderful strategies you can use to raise oxytocin. Raising your oxytocin levels can help you with PCOS. PCOS should always be treated as a diabetic issue first and foremost. And that means all your diabetic strategies, your diabetic supplements, for you folks using the longevity supplements, which I recommend and I take myself and absolutely love. Use the healthy blood sugar pack, and then throw in some of the ultimate niacin. The ultimate niacin. Vitamin B3 is part of what's called the glucose tolerance factor, and that is a complex of molecules that helps the body process sugar. So if you're using longevity products, take the healthy blood sugar pack and throw in some of the ultimate niacin. So lots of great strategies for you if you're dealing with PCOS. Topically, retinoids can help you with your, as we talked about last podcast, retinoids. Retinol can help if you have acne problems. Topical vitamin C can help. Topical alpha hydroxy acids and topical salicylic acid, which is a beta hydroxy acid. In fact, we may talk about topical strategies for acne on our next video cast with Liam. All right, my friend. Any questions? Do we have any questions from the audience here?
Well, I've got a couple of questions, and why I love doing these podcasts is like when Ben has a subject, he brings the receipts. He brings to the table all of the resources, and he does it so naturally. He just goes through these articles, and I just have a question, Ben. As you are formulating your idea, what you want to talk about, what is your do you have a search sort of rhythm that you go through?
I look for stories that are in the news. So PCOS is something that I've been talking about for many years. I first heard about PCOS back in the 1990s, and nobody was really talking about it back then. But the PCOS patient is so distressed, mostly because of the skin problems. I didn't talk about the hair. PCOS patients will have body hair and facial hair, and it can be very troubling. Hair loss on the top of their heads, and then hair growth on the mustache area or the beard area or on the body, as well as sometimes very severe acne. And then also obesity and weight issues, not to mention all the whole menstrual thing that goes on with PCOS. So I knew about it as a pretty significant health challenge for back in the 90s and going into the 2000s. Over the last 10 or 15 years, it's become more and more well known as a significant health challenge. But still, there's a lot of mystery about how you treat PCOS. So when I saw this article, I immediately thought this would be something important to talk about, because the PCOS patient, as miserable as the condition is, and as miserable as the patient can be when they're dealing with PCOS, it's super easy to treat. It's super easy to deal with. You just treat yourself like a diabetic. Now, you may need to also use some hormonal support. And I haven't talked about progesterone much, but progesterone can help balance out the excess estrogen that is responsible for the weight gain and a couple other of the menstrual problems and a couple other the unpleasant symptoms of PCOS. Progesterone is a wonderful way to balance out excess estrogen. Estrogen can also be eliminated. It should be eliminated through the bowels. If you're chronically constipated, that may not happen. If you had a gallbladder taken out, or if you have gallbladder issues or liver issues, that may not happen. And if you have dysbiosis or something called SIBO, S-I-B-O, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you're likely to have some estrogen issues. And then I don't want to go off too much into a rabbit hole, because we can talk about estrogen next time. But estrogen is also inflammatory for the intestinal lining, and it can cause problems with a leaky gut. And then you're really off to the disease races once stuff starts leaking out into the bloodstream. Secretions from bacteria like histamine and aldehydes, pieces of bacteria, components of bacterial membranes called LPSs or lipopolysaccharides, food particles, immune particles. All of these can get into the bloodstream through a leaky gut, and excess estrogen is one of the reasons why people have a leaky gut. To compound matters, dysbiosis or problems with gut bacteria can actually potentize estrogen, making it even more potent and problematic. We can talk about estrogen. I don't want to go too much down a rabbit hole today. We can talk about estrogen on our next episode, as well as talk about acne. But the point I want to make here is that PCOS is easy to deal with. Treat yourself like a diabetic, balance out your estrogen, and watch your PCOS symptoms disappear.
Outstanding. And then I just have one last, we were talking a lot about vitamin C ascorbic acid. And then there was this, famous study, Linus Pauling in the 70s said that he cured cancer through 10 milligrams.
His prostate cancer?
Yeah, intravenous, 10 milligrams of intravenous vitamin C. And then he kept trying to get funding for double-blind studies and couldn't do it. And they were trying to recreate the studies by doing the 10 milligrams, orally. And he was like, no, it's got to be intravenous. So what are your thoughts on the magic power of vitamin C? It's
incredibly powerful, and it's so cheap, and it's so benign and non-toxic and so readily available as a supplement that drug companies really don't like people using vitamin C. Nonetheless, as it turns out, health challenges are not caused by drug deficiencies. They're caused by nutrient deficiencies. Oftentimes, they're never caused by drug deficiencies, but oftentimes they're caused by nutrient deficiencies. And vitamin C is especially fascinating because vitamin C is the vitamin that helps you build, or that it doesn't just help you build, it triggers the production of the body's most important component, which is the connective tissue. Connective tissue is, as the name implies, the stuff that holds us in place. Without the connective tissue, we just dissolve into a puddle. But the connective tissue is also important for delivery of nutrients and detoxification and delivery of oxygen. And the connective tissue is also important for the immune system. It's also important for keeping the body, the structure of the body intact via the bones. The bones are connective tissue. Skeletal system is connective tissue. And as we age, most of the things we fear the most about the aging process, the physical disability, the pain, the arthritis, the wrinkles, and the increase in skin laxity, the heart disease, the immune problems, the inflammation inside the body, all of these are functions of vitamin C deficiency. So in many ways, vitamin C is the anti-aging vitamin, in addition to being the immune vitamin and the vitamin that's important for the heart and vitamin that plays a role in so many different health functions. It's your anti-aging vitamin. Deficiencies in vitamin C are associated with all the horrible things that happen as we age. So in this way, taking vitamin C can slow down the aging process. Why is this important? Well, it's important because most of us are getting our vitamin C doses based on what's called the RDA. The RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is not there to keep us healthy. It's there to keep us not sick. See the difference? The medical model, God bless the medical model. I'm not ripping on the medical model here, because they're there to save us from horrible diseases, and you only need a tiny amount of vitamin C to not get a horrible vitamin C deficiency disease. But in order to slow down the aging process, in order to strengthen your skin, in order to make your heart more powerful, in order to improve the body's ability to repair itself, to grow and repair, you need much more than the RDA of vitamin C. So most people are getting way too little vitamin C. They're being way underdosed in their daily intake of vitamin C. And that's if they're getting a multivitamin. And a lot of people aren't even getting that. So the RDA for vitamin C, the recommended daily allowance, is about 100 milligrams, right? You need 1,000 or 2,000, or Linus Pauling was doing 10 grams of it, 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Let me tell you something. Linus Pauling was one of the most brilliant biochemists that ever lived. This was no amateur. This was a brilliant Nobel Prize winning chemist who studied with Albert Szent-Györgyi, who was probably the greatest biochemist who ever lived, the guy who discovered the vitamin C structure, the vitamin C molecule itself. They'd known about stuff that was in citrus fruits for hundreds of years, but they didn't really isolate the vitamin C molecule until the early part of the 20th century, and that was Albert Szent-Györgyi who did it. Albert Szent-Györgyi, as I say, has a reputation for being the greatest biochemist who ever lived, and his protege, or his student, was Linus Pauling. So Linus Pauling knew a lot of stuff, and one of his most important books was called Vitamin C and the Common Cold, where he talked about using vitamin C as a treatment for the cold, as a treatment for the common cold, and as a preventative, so you don't get the common cold. And to this day, vitamin C is part of my cold protocol. If I ever feel a sniffle coming on, I haven't gotten a cold in quite a long time, but if I ever feel a sniffle coming along, I have a nutrient protocol that I use. It's not just nutrients; it's a lifestyle protocol that involves super high doses of vitamin C, zinc picolinate along with copper, which balances out zinc, half a gallon to a gallon of water, drinking it down, just flushing everything through, and getting 1 or 2, ideally 2, but even 1 works, 12-hour nights of sleep, 12 hours of sleep in a night. And if you do all of that, you won't get the cold, especially if you catch the cold early enough. Like when you start to feel, you get that kind of feeling a cold is coming on.
Absolutely.
If you catch it early enough, you won't even get the cold. That's 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate a day with maybe 3 or 6 milligrams of copper glycinate, 5 to 10 grams of vitamin C in divided doses every day, half a gallon to a gallon of water, flushing everything out, and then 1 or 2 or 1 night of 12 hours of sleep. And even if you have to do, a Benadryl or a Somanex or some kind of sleeping pill in order to get that 12 hours of sleep, it's not ideal to do it that way. But if you need to, it's worth it, because you'll wake up rested. The body, of course, recovers and heals while it's sleeping, and that vitamin C and the zinc and the water that you consumed during the day will help improve or ensure that the healing process kicks in earnest. And of course, the water will help flush everything out. So vitamin C is super important for anti-aging, for cardiovascular health, for oxytocin, and thereby for PCOS, for the adrenal glands, and also for if you're dealing with any kind of immune problem, autoimmune problem for that matter, or if you feel like something as simple as you feel like you're coming down with a cold.
And it's essential because we don't produce it, right? We're one of the few animals that don't produce
Liam, you know
vitamin
your
C.
stuff. Yes, animals make vitamin C. Humans don't make vitamin C. The fruit bat doesn't make vitamin C. And there's a type of guinea pig that doesn't make vitamin C. And I think there might be one other animal that I'm missing. But for the most part, you're absolutely correct. Animals make vitamin C. Vitamin C is a very, very simple molecule. It's similar to glucose. It's actually in industry, it comes from glucose. That's how they make it synthetically. It's derived from glucose, usually from corn. And the molecule itself is super simple. By the way, I might just throw this in real quickly. There are some folks on the internet that I've been hearing talk about how vitamin C is not a vitamin, how you need to have, it has to come in from foods and fruits and vegetables, etc. And while it's true that fruits and vegetables are always going to be the best source of nutrients, you're not going to get the kind of high doses that you need. You have to eat a bathtub full of oranges in order to get 1,000 milligrams, let alone 5,000 or 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C. With these folks, they're well-meaning, these naturopaths and chiropractors and holistic practitioners who say vitamin C is not a vitamin. What they mean is that there are cofactors or flavonoids, which is a type of molecule that's found in fruits and vegetables that has adaptogenic properties that helps the body cope with things. And these adaptogenic flavonols help the body use vitamin C. They're found in nature, and wherever you have vitamin C, you have these flavonoids. But that's not to say that vitamin C on its own is not going to be effective. And in fact, there's thousands upon thousands of different studies that talk about vitamin C and its benefits for all kinds of health challenges. Plain old ascorbic acid, not food-based or not plant-based, but just the plain old ascorbic acid molecule. That being said, it's always good to get your nutrients from foods because you do get those cofactors. But when you're talking about super high doses of a vitamin or any essential nutrient like 5 or 10 or 15, 5 or 10 grams or 2 grams or 3 grams even, you really need to get the ascorbic acid powder. You're not going to be able to get that kind of concentration of vitamin C or ascorbic acid in a food. As much as I love oranges, you're only getting 30 milligrams of vitamin C from a fresh orange. That ain't going to touch the common cold or PCOS or any other health challenge that you want to use vitamin C for. What food has the most vitamin C? I bet you don't know.
I don't know.
Chili peppers.
Chili peppers. I love chili peppers.
But how many chili peppers can you eat?
Can you eat right?
Kiwi's a good source of vitamin C. Citrus, oranges have a reputation for being a good source of vitamin C, but that's more marketing than anything else. An orange juice that comes in a package is not a good source of vitamin C. There's hardly any vitamin C in orange juice when it's packaged. But the best sources are papaya, kiwi, chili peppers. Some melons probably have some vitamin C in them. But the best way to get your vitamin C if you want super high concentrations is go with the ascorbic acid powder.
Outstanding. Okay, so everybody, if you want to, like I was saying before, Benjamin brings the receipts. He really researches a subject and gets down with the data. So use these opportunities on a Sunday to come in on the chat and ask that, ABA, Ask Ben Anything every Sunday. So we really appreciate everybody watching. There's so much data here. Sometimes I push the wrong thing. Push the poster. So, but that's a great thing, right? Better too much data than.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, it's almost half an hour, Ben. Should we call it?
Let's do it. See you next Sunday, Liam, and bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. See you next Sunday, and thanks for watching. Take care. Au revoir.